This is the next chapter of a story about a hero that was maybe misunderstood, a technology carrier which was not liked by too many, let's take it that way. And this is why the Mercedes EQS, the top electric flagship at Mercedes, receives another extensive facelift, but not only visual changes but also massive technology upgrades for the battery in size and charging. Also upcoming in this video here, the crazy new steer-by-wire technology and a new Formula 1 steering wheel in the EQS with an extensive driving part. And the real question is then, can the Mercedes EQS finally succeed right now? Let's find out together with Thomas Nautical in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the new front. This is the new standard electric art front. Means we have this new front grille, so to speak, but it's all the way closed with illuminated tiny stars. And you can see from this new logic, it has more the design of the new Mercedes CLA now, with this illuminated grille in the front and then the top light strip right there, and not the so far classic EQ design, which was not liked by so many customers. Then you have here the star pattern in the daytime running light. Star pattern, as I said, here in the front grille, and you also have the star here standing on the top hood, which was introduced from the first facelift, a little bit ago. This can also be illuminated like with the new S-Class. This is not the spec here with the illumination, but it can be. And the AMG line would be then here that you have a central large star here, not the standing star on top of the hood, and this star can also then be illuminated like with the Mercedes CLA. Another news is also that we have now these power dome accentuations on the top hood right here. Gives a sportier touch, and this is like a sparkling black color with glass particles in it. You can maybe see it, maybe when Jonas gives some light on the hood as well, or maybe you can see it. There you can see these sparkles in there. These are real glass particles, so yeah, very interesting, definitely. And I think I was also not the biggest fan of the EQS design so far, and really split opinion, but I think this one here comes closer to their new current design language, and I think this does have more chance now to be acknowledged by the customers, I would say. What do you think? The length here is 5 meters 23, a long vehicle, or 206 inches, and these are 21-inch wheels, 19 to 21. These are the biggest ones, also here in the aerodynamic design. This is more like a old school classic, almost Maybach design, maybe for that. Yeah, if you want so. Here the typical thing for the EQS, where I have to open the vehicle for that. This is here the wiper fluid filler. That's like a characteristic thing here with the EQS. And you still have the same CD value, 0.20. One of the most aerodynamic cars out there with this super stretched roof line right here. Then you have these curled tail lamps, which are now even here. So before it was ending there, this curling, so to speak. Now they are also spiraled in this part here, furthermore. EQS 580 is the top model, 4.2 seconds in the acceleration figure, the quickest one. One electric motor in the rear, one in the front. There's also a rear-wheel drive entry-level model available, which is a little bit slower. We also have a separate data comment or in the video description with all the different versions and the data. This one here also gets the biggest battery, and there are also huge changes as for that. So the bigger battery now is at 122 kilowatt hours net. That's a huge battery, and with that, this probably one of the cars which can score the longest range overall here on the market. So even if you drive fast on the motorway, it can easily go 600 kilometers or 370 miles at really like higher speeds, And then of course, if you have more city share in that, it can really go way above that. And this is more like a 4 kilowatt hours plus. However, the biggest change is for the smaller battery, which is now at 112 kilowatt hours net. And this is the larger, jump if you compare the battery before. So what was the big battery is now somewhat the small battery, and the big battery is even a little bit bigger. so to speak. And if you're interested in buying a used Mercedes EQS, this one here, the pre-facelift model, then you should check out carVertical, our partner here for checking the record of a vehicle, because with carVertical you can actually check if the vehicle had some damages, if there was possibly something manipulated and so on, what's the history of the vehicle, what's the history of the workshop and so on, what mileage was registered and so on. And this is a very practical tool to really be sure when buying a used vehicle that you don't buy anything you possibly don't want, and you have a transparent view on the vehicle's history, like maybe a dealer would take a perspective on that vehicle. And you can find a discount code for 20% off in your video description and also in the pinned comment, and you can click the link then. And even more interesting is the pricing, because in some markets it was available before, but in many markets not, that you start below 100,000 euros. For example, now the German entry price is 94,000 euros. For the small battery, which is now already a very large battery. And this is crucial for the taxation, because now you can have really the lowest taxation rate then for electric vehicles if you take it as a company vehicle, as an employee or also as a self-employed. So this makes this vehicle here in a lot of markets even more attractive, that you get large battery for better leasing rate and also better entry price and so on. And also recharging, they've worked on that. Charging flap is right here. 11 or 22 kilowatt AC, and DC charging now 330 or 350 kilowatt peak then, the bigger one for the bigger battery. And the charging times are 25 minutes for the small battery, 27 minutes for the big battery, 10 to 80% state of charge. Why is it now? They switched to the 800 volt architecture. It was not there before, but now, since also the CLA and so on got the 800 volt architecture, they said, hey, we need to also offer that for our flagship model. And this one also has an inbuilt DC-DC converter that you can also charge at 400 volt stations no matter what. So it's a very interesting choice for sure. It does not have a frunk. That is something that other electric vehicles have. They put a huge HEPA filter under the hood, and that's why they don't have too much space there anymore. That's also an interesting thing, right? Then here we can also open the door with the key. Flush door handles, but then here, this automatic door opening. I could now get inside and hit the brake pedal, but I could also here then hit the closing button on the key fob and also soft closed right there. This is an option here. And then you can see, soft close one more time. Ta-da! Magic. And here these flush door handles, you know that the new Chinese regulations will forbid these. So it's a problem for the Chinese market definitely, and it will also have an effect on other markets for sure. Here in this area, they are mechanical, by the way. So this is a very important safety feature then, that you could have that. Then you also have standard actually, these lamination in the glass. So this dual lamination here, and it's both for the front and also for the rear, that it's really silent. And I can tell you, it is a very, very silent car also on the motorway. And door closing sounds a little bit G-Class alike, right? Yeah, it's very interesting, but pretty good. So that is the thing with the EQS. So the design really wasn't liked by so many. There were some, EQS fans, no matter what. But the thing was always that it was like this technology carrier and a technology hero and efficiency and range hero. And now they tried to make the design a little bit more likable, and I mean, it goes even further now. So if you even go for the small battery, even there already with that kind of efficiency, with this kind of battery size, there's hardly any other electric vehicle that can go so far on one battery charge. And now can also recharge quicker. And quickly here, instead of the doors, is like a special, structure they put in there here, and nice ambient lighting here around, for example. These seats, they don't give any feedback while moving. They fixed it for new versions of Mercedes now, like new models. This is here matte wood. This is a cool atmosphere, and also everything covered here from the inside of the door, for example. And then there's another big news here. This is the new steering wheel. Don't be afraid, it's an option. I mean, it's like Formula One style. That's really flat bottom and top, and you still have real buttons at the steering wheel. And this also counts for both steering wheels. And as I said, this is an optional steering wheel. So good to have real buttons, but also back for the classic steering wheel. And this is only with the steer-by-wire. What does that mean? Here, when you get this steering wheel, then you have an electric control over the wheels, and it does not work via a standard, like steering column behind that. That is the thing, and this will show us that later on even more. So you do like this, full lock, like this, full lock to the other side. And with a classic steering, you would just need more turns in both directions. And this one also comes directly in combination with the rear axle steering, up to 10 degrees in the opposite direction. However, it is also possible to get the rear axle steering with the standard steering. What is the logic behind there? Standard is air suspension and rear axle steering up to 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction. And then optional, via software unlock, it is already in the car. It's just a software thing to get some more money from the customer. So with the software unlock, then you can go up to 10 degrees in the opposite direction than the front wheels. And that 10 degrees rear axle steering is included already with this steer-by-wire system with the special steering wheel. It is a cool thing and it can be helpful. We can also drive that for you here today already. However, it's not a must thing, You'll be totally fine with the classic steering wheel if you don't want to make this like different new technology thing. And yeah, that's fine. I think to me important is more the new small battery, which has this 16 kilowatt hour jump now. This is like the amount it increased. That is the crucial thing here about this car to me. And then you can get this lower entry price, this 94,000 euros. But make no mistake, when the car is as it stands here with the big battery, the overdrive, the 4.2 seconds in the acceleration figure, many extras, it can easily be 150,000 euros and more. Once again, 135,000 euros for the 580. And then, of course, with all the extras and stuff. And steering is really unusual. We know it from the AMG GT XX concept car, for example. But it's actually quite handy, It's good control here over the manual buttons and so on. And you can see the instruments in a much better way, definitely. So let me put that alive, this new hyperscreen. Well, it's not a new hyperscreen, it's like the common hyperscreen. The new hyperscreen is in the GLC EQ, which you've maybe also seen here on Autogefühl. So better view to the instrument part than here of this hyperscreen. And yeah, it feels really sporty, Formula One-alike. I would not exactly say that it fits to the EQS from the styling. However, it fits to the EQS from a perspective of this is the technology carrier and they put like the max technology in this one. That's why it was also so important to upgrade the charging and the battery and so on. That not the CLA is the electric flagship at Mercedes, but once again the EQS. Yeah, that's the thing. Of course, you can also change the ambient lighting colors as for that. And we will also later on show you once again how the normal steering wheel looks like from the pre-facelift. The difference will just be that you will also have the rocker and roller, as Mercedes calls them, here on the steering wheel again. Let's see if the seat is in the lowest position here. Yeah. It is. This is, by the way, animal skin here, but you can also get, at least in German market, the Artico leatherette or also the microfiber with the sporty seat. That's possible, but not all markets offer that. That was a little bit sad. However, new is also that we can also get an animal-free steering wheel. So you can choose that in the configurator. And then here, well, it's not too much headroom left here with 189.62, kind of close, but beautiful seating here with microfiber from the inside. So now I'm going to use here this other function. Here I'm pressing the brake pedal with my feet. There we go. And then I can also close the door by that, and you can see how the ambient lighting follows all the way through. Oh, this is frog green. Oh, the frogs. Or full blue. Yeah, the Thomas Blue ambient lighting color. The ambient lighting integration, some maybe say it's too much, but I really love it. I think it's very well executed, and it is a lot on the one hand, but it's still subtle, that it's not like, totally in your face and like blinding you. You have a nice matte integration of that. Also how it's here integrated, for example, in the ambient light here in the air vent, for example, which has this aircraft turbine style. This is beautifully done. passenger screen right here, then the main infotainment unit. You can also set magenta for Leah, for example. Or what would be, Jonas is filming today, by the way, so what would be Jonas' favorite color? Ambient lighting?
White.
White. That is unusual. Is white even a color? That is up for discussion, right? Yeah, I mean, now you have this the most, you see, like Jonas is more like this, agent style, very subtle, like I would be more, or pool blue. Yeah, pool blue is also pretty cool, right? The glass roof, by the way, this one you can still open. Difference to the all new electric models by Mercedes, which you cannot open in the glass roof. This one is still possible. And then once again, more ambient lighting there. And how beautiful all the way the microfiber is covered here. Also here at the sun blinds, for example, love these details. They can, oh yes, check. And also greetings to my friends at Straight Pipes, because they always check that as well. Yeah, here you can really very well extend that sun visor here for the EQS. It's very important here to cover all of that area. And it has an own style, definitely, but sometimes to me it's a little bit too much screen. Yeah, what do you think about that? Nice microfiber cushions here in this top premium package. Yeah, but I will probably then stick with the animal-free options, which they also now offer. But sometimes it's that the UK and the US market, for example, don't even offer that. That's of course then a problem. High floor mats here. This is also part of an optional package. I love these floor mats, They always tempt you to take off your shoes. You shouldn't do that as a driver, but at least you can do that, for example, as a passenger. And also here on this side, the glove box with the button. It's, yeah, pretty shallow though, but nicely integrated here. So the build quality is pretty decent, definitely. And also here, for example, with the matte wood, you can feel that here, slide it open. And look at that. This is the old cup holder design, the front one. I think they kept it that way that you can easily reach for the inductive charging pad and two USB-C chargers. But this is the S-Class facelift new cup holder design, because I complained that the bottles fly around too easily. And then here, when you have this 4-dot design, then also the bottles are being kept tighter. So this is well done that they also thought of these small details here. Split opening here for the armrest. Actually huge space here underneath, and then with two USB-C chargers as well. And on the screen, showing you here from the ambient lighting, for deactivating this EU speed warning chime, you can click here in the top left part, and you can deactivate also this attention assist or the acoustic warning for the speed limit. The vehicle is switched on, or you can also press and hold the volume button, then you can also activate and deactivate it just by the steering wheel, for example. And I think the resolution is actually pretty cool. You also have like this little curve in here. So they did that actually before Porsche now with the Porsche Cayenne Electric. And I'm a friend of physical dials for the climate and so on, definitely. But here at least, switch on the vehicle, there we go. You at least have it here directly in a very close control distance here. And you can also see you don't have to use this function, but you could. Then you have this orchestra playing with the ambient lighting when you change the temperature. Also does here on the other side. This always looks especially nice. Here maybe Jonas can show that here at the inside of the doors. Here how it runs through right there, right? So once again, I mean, it brings some joy to the interior, but if you don't like these functions, you might as well deactivate it. As a tall person, you do, okay, this is like really lots of stretching the spine, but it's getting close. That's the thing with the CD value. So aerodynamic, but then it also gets a little bit close here. But you see, as a tall person, you can still very well sit here. Let's take a look at the rear, because with the first facelift, they made the standard comfort pack also included. This one here is the optional comfort package. And first of all, there we go, we have these cushions then with that. Here, still legroom left, no problem. Long wheelbase and so on. It's not the most comfortable here in the rear, considering, let's say, luxury sedan segments. Gotta say that, because you see my feet are still relatively high from the angle here. With these cushions, it's definitely already better in the lower area, but it's not primarily a luxury rear seating sedan. Let's take it that way. An S-Class would still offer more comfort there. The screens here in the rear, if you like them, you don't have to take them, are now larger. That's also a thing. Headroom here's no problem, 189/642, nice microfiber cover. You also have a separate shade then here. This is the front one. This is the rear shade. You can control it here from the inside of the doors actually. So very interesting. There we go. This is very interesting. So, I was mistaken. There's one key that controls both. So the left controls both, and then the right one controls the window. This is the way. So now we figure that one out. So you can play with that, and you don't have to do that in the screen actually. So sometimes it's also a little bit too much. Then here is also some news. You put down this, and you have like phone or cup holders right here, and then here from the S-Class also these digital control panels where you can activate the seat massage and so on, and you can also take these out here. So this would be possible. And then here, inductive charging pad. Last but not least, I now switch to the other side because you can also activate when you have this optional comfort package. Press this button here, then you can do the fold flat function. I think maybe here in the studio car I have to hold it. Yeah, so it should be possible that you just press it once, but sometimes, you know, when they're here stationary for a longer time, then you have to hold a little bit. And then we can go forward with that seat here. It's not that we have a calf rest here or something like in the S-Class, but at least you can move this one way forward, and then you have a lot of legroom that you're coming close to an executive seating position. So they try to move it closer to the S-Class rear, but it's not quite there yet. Then the next alternative would be an S-Class plug-in hybrid as for that, which we showed you to you actually recently in the studio. And of course, we have to check out the huge trunk, this fastback trunk as well. And the trunk or the boot at 610 liters. And here, there's an interesting cover here because it just manually opens and closes along with the glass and so on. This one also fits vertically underneath, and we have it's here like a little bit less than 1.40 meters in width right here. The length, however, it's a pretty long vehicle, and that's why we are here at 1.25 meters or 49 inches. And underneath here, some space, but not really for a cable. That's why the cable is flying around there in this box in the rear. And then you can see this is like the optional comfort seat package. And there you see the inclination difference. Then you can have a little bit more trunk space in the height here, in the length. That will be a difference, but then you cannot fold it with this electric seat package. So if you want to fold this, which I would recommend in a way that you can very well use this vehicle, then you do not go for this optional comfort package. And here the height, here we are about 29 inches or 74 centimeters. So once again, the question is, do you want more of this electric control of the inclination there in the rear, or do you want more trunk flexibility maybe for the family and so on? And since it doesn't get close to the S-Class luxury in the rear, you might as well go for the seats that you can actually also fold. And there's also a special feature right here. Look at that. Here, this is the heated seatbelt introduced with the S-Class facelift recently. And this seatbelt then, together with the seat heating, is heated up to 44 degrees Celsius. It sounds super, super hot, but of course, it has to go through the clothes and so on, and it's actually, quite cozy feeling. Why not? Why not? I mean, of course not. And about the steering, this is the pre-facelift, so it will be now with the facelift getting the real buttons of the steering. But here, classic steering input. This is all the way to the right. This is all the way to the left. So here, 1, 2. So from right to left, you need 2 full rotations, basically. This is the standard, and you can still get it in that way. And the feeling is good, natural. Of course, you also have steering support. But how does it feel like in the new steer-by-wire? So now the steer-by-wire steering wheel, what is the benefit? We can surely discuss the design if you like that or not. But the technological benefit is, you remember, we had here like a full circle from one lock, and then from one to the other lock, 2 full circles. And here that's it. So here, now the wheels are fully locked to one side, fully locked to the other. I mean, you can't be that quick with the other steering wheel, with the classic one. That means you need less steering input. It's more progressive, more artificial, yes. If you like ease the car back and forth, like, you know, like this typical 3-point turn, you know, you go back again. This is so much quicker and also more comfortable. Might it also apply more stress on the passenger, especially? Maybe. So it feels more in a computer game, but you have way less effort actually in controlling what the car does. Yeah, looking forward to drive this one then for you very soon. This was like the dry exercise, but here you can understand why it might be helpful as technology. But the one thing is always, you know, yes, advance in technology. Do we really need it? Not really. Can it be useful? Yes. Do you want it? Up to you. Now the steer-by-wire test. New design, 10 degrees rear axis steering, which you can also get for a normal steering wheel. And the thing is here, first of all, it's almost like turning on standstill here with this turning circle. Absolutely crazy and so easy to do. They say they will also offer a classic design of the steering wheel with steer-by-wire in future. At the moment, it's bound together, this Formula 1 steering wheel with the steer-by-wire. And here now in a slalom, look at that. How little I have to work actually on the steering to do that. This is crazy. Now there's a car in the way. My friend Betim, Ben's King, doing moderation right there. And then here, look at that. I mean, it's crazy how easy I can, it was like full lock, one to the other side. And I still have a good feeling. It's not that it's completely through thin air. It does have a certain resistance. And if you now think, wait a minute, what's happening with super high speeds? They also thought of that when you're driving really fast, in contrast to the standard steering wheel, this one gets more resistance at higher speeds then, so that they don't happen to be on the motorway and then you suddenly are gone to the side or something like just by a small input. So they thought about that. And here, it's really crazy how easily I can steer it around, and we'll soon compare it to the classic steering wheel. And then you have to see how much I have to work with that one in comparison. So I'm also not the biggest fan of this design maybe or something, and you might be skeptic about this whole tech, but showcases like these really show that it makes sense. This is a good technology showcase, you know, it really makes driving life, especially when easing around, easier. And now we switch over to the classic steering, pre-facelift model. Here we only have the 4.5 degrees rear axis steering, so that's not a fair comparison as for the rear axis steering. However, here, I mean, even though this is only the 4.5 degrees rear axis steering, I mean, this was also a great performance here from this turning circle. Wow. So even with that one, you're already totally fine, basically. And here on the slalom, look at how much I have to work the steering more in comparison to the steer-by-wire. It's, yeah, probably more than double the effort. It's also not much resistance. It's easy to do that, yes. But here also especially, I have to go full lock to full lock. And this is then the major difference. So, yeah, and then you have to do the Wischer, as we say in German. You know, like when you swipe something or wipe something, then you sometimes say like that you do the same with the steering. You know, so yeah, that is astonishing, really astonishing. So it's still not hard to do that here with that one, but it's really so much easier with the steer-by-wire technology. So yeah, and of course the view to the instruments is more blocked than with this one. That might be another thing. Yeah, or then maybe at some point the solution that you go for old steering look, but then the new technology. And here once again, this, you know, yeah, this takes more of you. It's of course like an optional luxury and comfort thing. But still, in this technology showcase, in this case, I think very interesting. You know that the Chinese government will also forbid the yoke steering wheels, so it's also important that it's closed also in this new design. But yeah, the big question is, which one would you actually take? And now also first the proof that it's actually steer-by-wire, so there is no physical steering column. They have two fail-safe mechanisms basically, so two systems parallel, just to be very sure then about this system. And there is second aspect here, maybe the case where, like in San Francisco, you park this car downhill in the famous streets of San Francisco, and then maybe you park like this, that the wheels are turned in against the curb, against the pavement, and then, or maybe like when the steering is like this, and then it's maybe not that comfortable to get out of the car, and so they made this. So look at the wheels. So the wheels are really turned all the way in, and now I will shut down the vehicle and the wheels stay where they are, but the steering wheel goes straight. And here once again, steering is straight, and now I can also easily exit the vehicle. But although the steering is straight, the wheels are still turned in. And you might think, like, how does the car cope with it when you turn it on again? I mean, there is no problem because there's no mechanical link. So when I turn it on again and it goes into the original position like this. So indeed, from the exterior, I think they did the car very well. Maybe it's still not my favorite car overall design-wise, but I think they moved away from this initial design, which was not so well appreciated, and it's still the case. I mean, it is somewhat still a hero car because it always goes forward with new technology, and now with a huge change to battery and especially charging, very quick charging. I mean, these 25 and 27 minutes doesn't sound that quick. However, if you think about it, the batteries are also super large. And the big hero is now basically the small battery, which is then offered at a, relatively low price for an EQS. It's still an expensive vehicle, of course. And this new technology here, steer-by-wire, you have to get used to it, yes, but especially in this showcase where the tight, narrow corners, turning and so on, that did make sense and was so much more comfortable to steer with it. So on the technology side, it really makes sense. Maybe they will also mix it a little bit with the classic steering wheel, or you can maybe find a new way where maybe there's a form which is somewhat between a classic and this new Formula One steering wheel. So a lot of ideas are definitely out there. Question is, would you already get one with this new technology? And would you now go for a Mercedes EQS, either here in this electric art style, or then maybe the AMG with the large center star and without the star on top of the hood? Looking forward to your feedback to this recent Mercedes EQS facelift, and now check out the Mercedes S-Class, also recently facelifted, or of course the direct competitor, the BMW i7.